Hello, Amanda here, and I wanted to have a little think about directional thinking, having just been made aware that this is a thing in a video that I was watching. And I particularly want to have a think about this directional thinking in relation to myself, and I'm wondering where this sort of thing came from. So anyway, let me explain. Apparently, there's outside-in ways of solving problems and inside-out approach. When I say apparently, when I look into what's on the internet and whatnot, it's fairly obvious, and to me it seems, and I suppose how I most relate to this outside of the example I just saw this morning would be, customer centric versus business or company focused. So, for example, I'll explain. Let me just give you this this version that I saw when I started Googling this. Inside out thinking means your focus is on the process, systems, tools, and products that are designed and implemented based on internal thinking and intuition. The customer's needs, jobs, and perspectives do not play a part in this type. So basically, inside out, if you had a company, you're looking at, well, how does the company need to function? What processes do I need to put in place? And how do I want to organise my company? Outside in means that you look at your business from the customer's perspective and design processes, tools, and products and make decisions based on what's best for the customer and what meets their needs. That's what I'm comfortable with, very comfortable, in fact maybe too comfortable with, and this is where it's sort of clicking for me. So then I was looking at a psychology blog today, a blog post, and it was related to a psychological condition brought on or precipitated by a trauma, so a persistent trauma. And this also uses the phrases of outside in and inside out thinking. But in this case, it was saying the outside-in approach is based off a mindset when if I can get you out there to act correctly and understand me, my insides will be okay. So outside-in, instead of it being customer-focused, well, it's customer-focused, but it's almost treating yourself, I guess, as you are there on this earth to please others. That's your role, and that your insides are secondary. So if we look at the inside out approach to psychology, as it's been put, I'm okay with me. If you don't understand that, then that's okay. No need to justify myself. So I read that, and that would be in a company situation. I'm okay with me. This is how I need to run the company because this is the best way for me to run this company, that kind of thing. So this inside out, outside in, and autism and trauma, I guess, because the trauma and the autism do have many overlaps. Many autistic people are traumatized purely by the way that our brains are working on that monotropic way in a I can't remember the term, but basically our one-track mind in a many-track world makes the world quite traumatizing, potentially. I have then been judged and treated in a way that doesn't fit with my capacities or my reality of the world, and that's also traumatizing. That would be what I class a trauma by invalidation, or I suppose you could say imposter syndrome, when people see you as one thing and judge you as that when actually you're something else. Bringing all that back to this inside out, outside in, I also have to acknowledge the fact that I was brought up in a company. I said it, it's true. I was brought up in a family that operated as a business in many ways, because we were a family business. So the being possibly one of the reasons why this sort of thinking has permeated into my everyday sense, as opposed to just my customer service roles in business or whatever, is because it was a normal mode of operation for my family. the outside in. The customer is always right. The customer rings, I must go. The customer needs this, that's a priority. So it looks like possibly with my autistic brain and my lack of understanding of the nuance and how to apply different approaches to different situations, I have decided that outside in is the right way. Hence, that might be why, I'm guessing here, there's lots of layers to this. That could be one reason why my go-to is outside in for even personal things, which could also feed into why I over-explain myself, as demonstrated in this video and all the other videos I've put up. And it might be why inside out thinking is a little bit trickier for me. That said, I also can see how inside out thinking, I'm okay with me, if you don't understand, that's okay, is becoming something that I'm more comfortable with in my older age, and is also plays into another side of autism. So I would not be surprised if inside out thinking is more the norm autistically, and is dominant in families and where you grow up without your family bringing those customer interaction conversations home. So for example, if as an autistic child I would have grown up in a house where mum and dad just went to work, came home from work, and that was it, and at home we're the private family and we do our own thing and we orientate our lives in that way, and at work I'm not privy to that information, so I don't absorb or take on that mindset. Because it seems to me, and it's definitely more comfortable for me. So there's been many times when I've had when I've carried on with a behaviour or a presentation of myself that goes against the grain, against the norm, so it definitely doesn't please the customers. A low-hanging fruit example of that would be what I wear. So even though I went into a corporate environment, I did adopt the suit to some degree, or the smart clothing to some degree, but I didn't adopt it wholeheartedly like many of my colleagues did. I certainly never got to the point where I could wear the shoes, because that was a hard no for me. I have never been able to walk very well in heels. I have always preferred comfort and practicality in the shoe department, and so that was something I wasn't willing to compromise on, in spite of the fact of it being brought up and commented on by people in my work career over the time. And you might say, what a petty example that is, or well, it doesn't really matter, but it does matter. And it did matter to the point of me still remembering how it made me feel to be constantly judged as different or wrong in many situations. It was like wearing the shoes that were right for me definitely put a barrier between me and other people. But that was an example of me with my inside out approach, and clearly some part of me decided that was something I was not willing to compromise on. That was a hard barrier for me. But when I look at this outside-in approach to problem solving, if I can get you out there to act correctly and to understand me, my insides will be okay. So external validation. I think this is a point for me where there's cognitive dissonance, I guess. I feel that the more I explore this, that this is a conditioned norm for me. This is an adopted norm for me. And that while I can see the merits of the customer-facing approach in some situations, I don't believe it helps me live a good life or an authentic life or a comfortable life when I adopt it monotropically. So I do feel that this might be a masking, I've said masking, that probably is the way I say it. I do feel this might be a masking strategy or an adopted strategy, which then has become a bit of an adopted trauma, because that's what I assumed was the norm, when now with a bit of insight I'm learning that we do have this choice. Now the last thing I want to say on that is if I can get you out there to act correctly and understand me, my insides will be okay. I don't feel attached to that bit of that, so I do not personally identify with requiring outside validation to make me feel okay, but I do feel a great deal of attachment to the trying to get people out there to understand me correctly. And for me, it's very much so that people can judge me correctly or accurately. Whether they like me or not, I don't care, honestly. No, what was I going to say? It's unsettling, I was going to say, if people don't like me, and it's definitely disturbing is the word I was trying to find. It disturbs me for a bit, because then I'm checking myself to see, what did I do? Did I offend them? You know, because I have that anxiety. But at the end of the day, once I've worked out or understood what it was that people didn't like, I can accept that, because I understand that you can't like everybody, and that's not it doesn't matter, and that you can't give your power away to other people. So summing up, the outside-in approach to problem solving, Googling it, I see that that's a very successful business strategy. I feel that I've adopted a very successful business strategy and applied it to my whole decision-making process and mode of operating, not recognizing that there's an inside-out approach that I can apply to more situations than I have, not just my shoes. And I feel that this presentation I have currently is causing me is partly informed by trauma, and very much underpinned by autism, and that if I can unpick some of that and redress the balance a little bit, and reclaim some of my inside out thinking, that my life will be a lot less stressful. I don't for 1 minute think that I'm going to stop over explaining, because I actually like that, and I've noticed a lot of autistic people do. And like I said, explaining yourself in great detail so that people understand you as an autistic person, for me it feels like almost like my duty to the world in a way. So yeah, customer service. However, it's then not my problem if people don't understand. I understand that. But it's my duty to make clear what is currently unclear, and to put some ideas out there so that other people who have less capacity for or inclination towards doing this can possibly benefit from the endeavour that I have undertaken, or the work that I've put in. I'm not doing it for other people, I'm actually doing it for myself, but I do believe that other people might benefit if this sort of thinking is shared, and especially in the realms of autism and trauma, because it's very, very hard to unpick these things, and for whatever reason, the brain set that I have finds it a little easier to detach or to set aside my ego serving emotions in these situations, and just, you know, unpick on the table scientifically. And that's what I'm doing. So there you go. Outside in, inside out. I think there's room for both, but I need to go inside out more.